Hi there everyone, it is a windy water quality collection day here at Titlow Beach Park. We're of course in partnership with the South Surf Rider Foundation collecting some water samples on the second Tuesday of the month. Sometimes spring break, kind of makes you reshuffle your first Tuesday schedule because we partner with the Science and Math Institute to do all of our water quality samples in their labs. So you got to work with the school system when you're using the lab there. So thank you all for joining today. If you want to let us know where you're tuning in from, again, we're out at Titlow Beach Park collecting a water sample for the Blue Water Task Force Community Science Water Quality Collection Program. So I'm going to flip things around here and show you that despite the wind, it is a beautiful low tide day here at Titlow Beach Park here in Tacoma, Washington. If you want to let us know in the comments where you're watching from, we always think that's pretty fun. So welcome, and if you have any questions as we go along, we're just going to do a little bit of a low tide beach walk. Hopefully I can keep you out of the wind and not let that interfere too much, and then we'll collect a water sample and get that to the lab. And I also plan to go live from the lab today, so if you want to see how the water sample tests are done, tune in a little bit later this afternoon. So I have my gear here, sorry, and we'll walk down. It is blustery. You can see there's not quite white caps on the water, but it is windy, and I'm certain that's getting picked up by my phone. Glad to see some folks tuning in from Bremerton. Got some people playing out on the beach here today, which is delightful. Let's see if I can kind of use my body as a windshield for you all, because I know that that's no fun to listen to while you're watching, wherever you're watching from. But yeah, a great low tide today. Titlow Beach has been a place we've been at pretty frequently lately. We'll have a King 5 evening magazine feature happening tomorrow, and that was filmed at this beach. Myself and Rachel doing some education. We even got Lindsay on the beach that day. That was really fun. Yeah, I got to do an interview with King 5 magazine, or evening magazine, and that premieres tomorrow evening, so definitely tune in for that. I know I'm at the low tide zone because you can see how the beach transitions from kind of the dry, rocky cobble, and then all of a sudden things start to turn green, which is my clue that we're in that kind of mid-intertidal zone. I didn't actually check the tide before getting here because I was distracted waiting for the train. Luckily we don't have that going on right now. I will say this kind of surface is very slippery. So if you are at the beach, Harbor Wild Watch likes to recommend those closed-toed shoes. Because barnacles are sharp, seaweed is slippery, and that combination can be tough on your toesies. So we're just going to kind of poke around and do a little bit of a creature search before I collect my water sample, which, since I didn't bring a tripod, I'm going to do that separate, but again, head to the lab later today with that. This looks like a nice little head-sized rock here that I can easily flip over with one hand to see if there's any sea creatures hiding either below or underneath the rock. I do want to just point out right off the bat, there's some creatures on top of the rock, like this nice limpet here, some barnacles, again, that green sea lettuce that lets me know we're in that mid-intertidal zone. And then under the rock, we have, let's see, a couple things. I see some green shore crabs scuttling around. Can I catch them? Nice. Lots of diatoms in the water already. As that pool settles and I get the glare off the water, you can start to see the creatures that are indeed taking shelter under this rock as the tide is low. These little mobile shore crabs, have it pretty easy where they can move to cooler, wet spaces while the tide is out, especially on a nice on a nice day here in Tacoma. Joe is telling me that we can't see or hear you in Silicon. I don't know what to tell you, Joe. Can anybody else hear? Hopefully this broadcast is coming through. Uh-oh. I love technology. But sometimes we have to wonder what is going on. Play with some volume settings. I am trying to block for the wind, so hopefully that wind blocking isn't blocking my total volume. Hard to say. There's another cool creature here. This is a frilled dogwinkle, a type of snail. I'm gonna just gently pluck off the rock so we can see its little snail foot. And assuming that it is thinking I'm gonna eat it, we're gonna see that foot tuck inside that snail shell. And as it tucks in, the operculum, which is kind of a little plate that grows with the snail, is gonna shut like a little trap door. And so you can kind of start to see that darker orange piece. That's the operculum I mentioned. And that's gonna help protect the snail from hungry predators, which I'm not a snail predator today, so I don't quite know why it's hiding from us, but you know, we'll let it do its thing. But this is a really cute little shell. This is kind of that perfect shell size that a lot of hermit crabs, I think, are hoping to find. Luckily the snail is doing well here, so it is not a home for a hermit crab. But if you do find shells on the beach, especially in the Puget Sound, you want to leave those shells because they could easily be home for a hermit crab. And for our crabs here in the South Salish Sea, they have kind of a lot of little tiny shells and a lot of big shells, but this real estate in that mid-size category is few and far between. So these little middle-sized shells are definitely important to leave on the beach. But we'll set that back under here. You can see that this puddle has definitely cleared, and those crabs seem to have disappeared. But if we stir up our mud again, I bet we'll find where they've scuttled off to. So again, that glare is kind of tricky. It's a sunny, beautiful day, what can I say? But lots of green shore crabs. Surprised to, well, not surprised to see them. Surprised not to see lots of little eggs in their bellies. This is a female shore crab based on that big wide belly flap. And in the spring they'll start having lots and lots of eggs under there that they'll kind of hatch out and cast into the water. Here's one of those crabs that's hiding. And those little crabs will have a planktonic life cycle. Oh, here we go. Here's a nice focus camera. Notice how this one, oops, her little belly pouch is kind of pooched out, and it almost looks like she's holding raspberries. Those tiny little dots, each one of them are eggs. And again, yeah, those eggs will hatch. There will be a planktonic life cycle at the beginning of this crab's life. Well, not this crab's, the baby crabs. And then they'll start to grow and mature and become something like this cute little shore crab. Oop. That's a good reason why we stay close to the ground, because these are mobile creatures and they can just crawl right off of your hand. If I was standing up and she fell from, you know, my 5'3" height, that could be damaging to her hard shell. So whenever you're handling sea creatures, we always want you to have nice wet hands and keep those animals low to the ground, especially if they're mobile, because they might just crawl right off. Also seeing some nice barnacles here. And I don't know if you heard those birds earlier. I'm not as good with my tiny birds, but I know here at Titlow Beach Park they have these birdhouses, which I believe are for purple martins. And I don't know what species was giving kind of that shrill little tweet earlier while we were looking in the puddle here. But there's some cool projects to help support some birds that are important. That nice cormorant just landed on the piling out there. Let's see if we can zoom in on those guys. me. Hi. Let's try that again. Your phone doesn't work very well when your hands are wet. It turns out. There we go. Yeah, so a nice cormorant and a seagull. Cormorant's doing some preening. Probably just was out fishing for lunch. And because they're a diving bird that doesn't have as much oil in their feathers as something like that seagull there, they actually have to dry their feathers out. So you'll often see them with their wings outstretched, which I'm like, okay, cormorant, do that. But of course they're not cooperating with my wishes. That's fine. We're gonna pop back down here because, as always, it is important to try and zoom out to put our rock back. So I'm gonna gently flip this back into place. So all those creatures that we just got to investigate now have their home returned nice and cozy for them. All right. Well, I think for the sake of the wind, we're gonna keep this to kind of a shorter live, just because I know that it's hard to hear. I'm also gonna pop over to Les Davis today. So if it's less windy on that side of the Tacoma beaches, we might go live from there as well. But this whole idea of this water quality testing is that for people recreating, notice we have some kayakers here. We're testing the water once a month to look for fecal coliform, or the same bacteria that's in poop, because nobody wants to swim or play in poo. And so we're doing that testing for you to make sure that you can have a source to take a peek and see, is the water I'm trying to play in nice and clean? And for me, I think that's important for my scuba diving adventures. Titlow is one of my favorite dive sites, as is Les Davis. We, again, in partnership with the South Zone Surf Rider crew, monitor 11 different sites for water quality. And while it's just a little snapshot in time, right? We can't guarantee that, right after we take a clear water sample, something might happen to mess that up. But we kind of get a record of samples over time that you can look to and get an idea of, how's the place to recreate. I'm gonna flip one more rock just to kind of be crouched down and hopefully get out of the wind some more. I'm seeing some nice seaweeds. We have all three brown, red, and green demonstrated here. I'm not sure what this is, but it does have some lacuna eggs. These little yellow donuts are the eggs of a snail called lacuna, which is a low intertidal species. I'm kind of peeking around to see if I can find one of those small little twirly snail shells. But, oh, sorry about that. Sometimes when you crouch down and are in between the rocks, you lose your broadcast. So I'll try, blocking the wind, getting cut off by rocks. These are the digital difficulties of our 2021 adventures here. So we'll go ahead and call that good so I can collect this water sample, and we'll see what our service is like over at Les Davis in an hour or so. And then we'll tune back in from the lab where we'll be testing our sample out to get it ready to see if there's any fecal coliform present in the different sites that we're testing. So thank you all for those of you who tuned in. As always, thanks for your comments and questions and likes and shares. That is a fun, free way to support Harbor Wild Watch. Drives the algorithms so that our message of stewardship gets out to more people. And of course, if you're in a place to make a financial contribution, we are a nonprofit, so we love your donations as well. But really, thanks for tuning in and learning and having fun on this beautiful, windy, wild day. We'll try another beach here this afternoon. So